For centuries, the Galactic Empire had been the unquestioned ruler of the stars. Their fleet was vast, their weapons were unmatched, and their power stretched from one end of the galaxy to the other. Any species foolish enough to challenge them was swiftly crushed. To the Empire, they were the pinnacle of civilization, and no one could stand in their way. So when the first reports began trickling in about a strange anomaly near Earth, no one paid much attention. Earth was a backwater planet, stuck in its ways and isolated from the rest of the galaxy. It was a place the Empire had no interest in. The humans had long been seen as insignificant, a species just beginning to explore space, not yet a threat. But this was about to change. The first piece of intelligence came in the form of an unknown transmission. It arrived without warning, its speed faster than anything the Empire had seen before. Faster than light communications were thought to be a theoretical impossibility, but this message proved it could be done. It came from Earth, of all places. The transmission was brief, direct, and simple. We do not seek war, but if you touch Earth or our allies again, you will regret it. The message was delivered with an eerie calm, and the Empire's officials immediately dismissed it as a joke. The idea that a single human ship, or worse, an entire fleet, could pose any kind of threat to the Empire was laughable. The humans, after all, had no advanced technology, no power to back up such bold claims. It was almost insulting to even consider it. In the grand halls of the Galactic Empire's command center, the officials laughed. The idea of humans, with their primitive weapons and ships, challenging the might of the Empire was absurd. They had conquered species far stronger, far more advanced than Earth. A few humans, even with a strange transmission, were nothing to fear. But there was something different about this transmission. The technology behind it was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. The speed at which it arrived was impossible. The Empire had no faster-than-light communication systems in their arsenal. And yet, here was this message from Earth, coming through in a way that defied their understanding of physics and technology. How could this be? The more they looked into it, the more questions piled up. The message was clear. Earth wasn't interested in peace talks or negotiation. This wasn't a plea for mercy. This was a warning. And it was a warning the Empire could not ignore. For days, the Galactic Empire's best minds analyzed the transmission, but they couldn't find a logical explanation. The more they tried to dismiss it, the more they realized that they had no idea what they were dealing with. The message had come from Earth, but something about it didn't fit. The technology, the speed, the tone, it was all wrong. They knew Earth had no FTL, faster-than-light, technology. They had never shown any signs of advanced spacefaring capabilities, much less the ability to send messages faster than light. And yet, here they were, facing a message that was impossible in every way. It was as if someone, or something, had completely rewritten the rules of space and time. The Empire's leaders were on edge. They decided to send a fleet to Earth, to investigate this mysterious threat and crush it before it could grow any more powerful. After all, what could a single planet of insignificant humans do against the might of the Empire? But deep down, a small, unsettling thought lingered in the back of their minds. What if they were wrong? What if this time, the humans weren't just making idle threats? As the Empire prepared its fleet for the journey to Earth, they were completely unaware of the devastating force they were about to face. They had no idea that the humans had been preparing for something far greater than they could have ever imagined. The Empire had underestimated Earth, and now they were about to pay the price. The Empire's fleet set course for Earth, confident in their victory. But something was amiss. Earth's defense systems had been silent, the planet's movements too calm, too quiet. It was almost as if Earth had been waiting for them. In the moments before the fleet jumped into hyperspace, a final report came through. It was a simple message, repeated over and over. Do not touch Earth. The message echoed through the command center of the Empire's fleet. The commanders stared at each other, uncertainty creeping into their thoughts. They had dismissed the first warning, but now, with each repeated message, the warning felt more real, more serious. The humans were saying something they had never said before. And if there was one thing the Empire had learned over the years, it was that underestimating an enemy was the biggest mistake of all. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, moving at full speed toward Earth. What awaited them was a terrifying unknown. The Empire's fleet emerged from hyperspace, its vast ships cutting through the darkness of space as they made their way toward Earth. The fleet was an awe-inspiring sight. Immense warships bristling with weapons, a true symbol of the Galactic Empire's dominance. For centuries, no force had been able to challenge the Empire's supremacy. To them, this mission to Earth was just another routine conquest. After all, who could stand against the Empire's might? But as the fleet approached the planet, something unexpected happened. The first signs of an anomaly appeared on the sensors. The ship's systems, typically precise and flawless, began to glitch. At first it was small, flickers of static on the displays and minor delays in communication. But as the fleet drew closer to Earth, the disturbances grew stronger. Captain Roland, leader of the fleet, furrowed his brow. The sensors were showing multiple objects ahead, but they were unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. The readings were inconsistent, fluctuating between normal and erratic. It was as if the very fabric of space itself was warping around them. "Report," Captain Roland barked, his voice laced with impatience. His officers scrambled to analyze the data, but it made no sense. Earth didn't have the technology to interfere with their fleet's advanced systems. Yet there it was, something that didn't belong. "Sir, we're picking up signals, but they're not like anything we've seen before. It's as if they're masking themselves," Lieutenant Kieran said, her voice tense. "It's almost like they've been waiting for us." The captain's eyes narrowed. The warning they had received from Earth earlier now echoed in his mind. Do not touch Earth. What did that even mean? And why were these strange signals now popping up as they neared the planet? "Prepare for full scan," Roland ordered, his tone firm, though there was a hint of unease. He wasn't used to being caught off guard, and he certainly wasn't used to being uncertain. The Empire had always been the one with the upper hand. Then it happened. Without warning, the fleet was rocked by a sudden wave of energy. A powerful shockwave blasted through space, hitting the fleet with the force of 1,000 storms. The ship's systems flared and flickered, and for a brief moment, the entire fleet was plunged into darkness. Alarms blared as the crews scrambled to regain control. "What was that?" Lieutenant Kieran shouted, struggling to bring the ship's systems back online. The entire fleet had been caught in the wake of a strange, invisible force. It was like a massive surge of energy had passed through them, leaving nothing but chaos in its wake. As the lights flickered back on, the screens slowly started to clear. And that's when they saw it. Ahead of them, emerging from the shadow of the Earth, was an enormous fleet, sleek, fast, and glowing with an eerie blue light. The ships were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. They were smaller, more nimble, but their speed and advanced technology were immediately evident. "They're faster than light." "Impossible," Captain Roland exclaimed, his disbelief palpable. How could this be? Earth had no such technology. The fleet wasn't just fast, it was moving in perfect formation, like a living organism, each ship working in seamless coordination. This wasn't some random defensive maneuver. This was a well-organized, well-planned strike. And then the communications channels opened. A calm voice, clear and direct, came through. "This is Earth's fleet. You have been warned. Leave our planet and return to your homes." The voice was cold, emotionless, and yet there was an undeniable power behind it. The Empire's commanders sat in stunned silence as the message echoed through the vastness of space. "Is this some kind of trick?" Lieutenant Kieran asked, her voice tinged with fear. Captain Roland stood frozen, his mind racing. The fleets of the Empire had faced countless challenges over the years, but this was different. Earth's fleet was something the Empire had never even dreamed of, and it was clear that they were not here to negotiate. They were here to fight. "Prepare for battle," Captain Roland ordered, his voice steady despite the rising anxiety in his chest. He couldn't afford to let his crew see his doubt. "Engage the enemy fleet. We'll show them what happens when you defy the Galactic Empire." But deep inside, Roland couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they had underestimated Earth, and this time, they might not be able to win. The first shots were fired. A brilliant flash of light erupted as the Empire's fleet unleashed its firepower on the Earth fleet. But to the Empire's shock, their blasts missed. The Earth ships moved with blinding speed, dodging each attack as though they had foreseen every move. Captain Roland's hands gripped the controls tightly. They were good, incredibly good, but they hadn't seen anything yet. As the battle raged on, one thing became clear. Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was fighting to protect something much greater than just a planet. It was fighting for its survival, for its place in the galaxy, and it was willing to do whatever it took to win. The battle was in full swing, and the skies above Earth were now a scene of chaos. The vast ships of the Galactic Empire had unleashed their weapons, but the human fleet's movements were almost impossible to track. Their ships glided effortlessly through space, maneuvering with precision and speed that made the Empire's best warships seem sluggish by comparison. Every shot fired by the Empire's ships missed by miles, their energy blasts dissipating harmlessly in the cold expanse of space. Captain Roland's face tightened with frustration. He had commanded fleets for decades and fought in countless battles, but this was something entirely new. Earth's ships were impossibly fast, far beyond what the Empire's intelligence had ever reported. The enemy fleet wasn't just evading their attacks. They were countering them with tactics that left the Empire scrambling for answers. "What are these ships?" Lieutenant Karen's voice trembled with disbelief. "We've never encountered anything like them." Captain Roland's fists clenched. The Earth fleet seemed to anticipate every move, their ships darting and weaving through the battlefield with an eerie precision. It was almost as if they knew exactly what the Empire would do before they did it. Every time the Empire fired a missile, the human ships would shift their positions in perfect synchronization, making it impossible for the Empire to land a hit. "Return fire," Captain Roland barked, his tone sharp and urgent. "We can't just stand here and let them mock us." The Empire ships responded, their guns charging as they fired once more. But once again, their shots missed. At that moment, something incredible happened. One of the Earth ships darted into the heart of the Empire's fleet, its speed making it appear as if it had disappeared entirely. The crew aboard the Empire's vessels watched in stunned silence as the Earth ship emerged from the other side, delivering a devastating blow to one of the largest capital ships in the fleet. The blast sent shockwaves rippling through space. Sparks and debris flew in every direction as the capital ship's shields failed, and its once glorious hull was pierced by a well-placed shot. The ship crumbled, its once mighty weapons falling silent as the engines flared and exploded in a ball of fire. "What just happened?" Lieutenant Karen gasped. Captain Roland stared in disbelief. The Earth fleet was no longer simply evading their attacks. It was systematically dismantling their forces. The Empire's greatest weapon, the flagship, had just been reduced to rubble in a single strike. The shockwave from the explosion rippled across the battlefield, stunning everyone in its wake. It was the first time in Captain Roland's career that he had witnessed such a decisive blow from an enemy so unexpected. The communications channel crackled to life once more. But this time, the voice that came through was different. It was cold, firm, and unmistakably human. "This is your final warning," the voice said, its calm tone standing in stark contrast to the chaos unfolding in space. "Leave Earth's orbit. If you do not, we will finish what we started." The words hung in the air, sending a chill down the spines of everyone aboard the Empire's ships. This was no longer just a warning. This was a declaration of intent. The humans weren't afraid. They were ready to fight, and they were winning. Captain Roland was silent for a moment, trying to process the sudden turn of events. How had it come to this? For centuries, the Empire had swept across the galaxy, conquering and claiming, unchallenged by any force. Now, a small, seemingly insignificant planet had brought them to their knees. Earth was not the weakling the Empire had assumed. It was a force in its own right, one that was not only capable of defending itself, but of striking back with a vengeance. "Captain," Lieutenant Kieran said, her voice quiet but filled with dread. "This isn't just a battle anymore. They're toying with us. They knew we would attack. Everything we've done so far, they've been one step ahead." The Empire's fleet had been fighting blind, unaware of the true capabilities of the Earth fleet. But now the realization was sinking in. Every move they made had been anticipated, every strategy had been countered. The humans were in control, and they knew it. "Regroup," Captain Roland ordered, his voice strained. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to rethink our strategy." But as he said those words, the battle continued to rage. The Earth fleet was relentless, not giving the Empire any space to breathe. Every ship they destroyed only seemed to fuel the Earth fleet's determination to finish the fight. As the Empire's forces scattered, Captain Roland couldn't help but wonder, what had Earth been hiding all these years? How had they developed technology that outmatched the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known? In the distance, another explosion rocked the battlefield as another Empire ship fell. It was becoming clear that the Empire had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. The first clash between the two forces had been brutal, and the humans were proving themselves to be far more formidable than the Empire had ever imagined. But this was only the beginning. The real war was just starting, and Earth had made one thing abundantly clear: it would not go down without a fight. The war had only just begun, but already the Empire was reeling from the unexpected brutality of the Earth fleet. Every hour that passed made it clearer to the Empire's high command that this was not going to be another easy victory. What was supposed to be a swift operation to conquer Earth was quickly turning into a nightmare that no one had predicted. Inside the Empire's flagship, the command center was a hub of chaos. Red lights flashed, and alerts blared as the Empire's fleet continued to suffer from the relentless assault. Captain Roland paced back and forth, his mind racing with thoughts of strategy and survival. "Get me the Admiral," he barked, slamming his fist onto the control panel. "Yes, Captain," his subordinate replied, already relaying the request. The video screen flickered for a moment before Admiral Zorek's image appeared. The Admiral's usually composed face was now twisted in frustration, his eyes narrowing as he took in the grim news. "Captain, report," Admiral Zorek demanded, his voice laced with tension. "We're losing," Captain Roland admitted, his voice heavy with disbelief. "The humans are more than we thought. They're ships. They move faster than any intelligence suggested. We can't keep up. They've already destroyed 2 of our largest warships, and our fleet is in full retreat." The Admiral's face tightened. He had never been one to show weakness, but even he couldn't hide the concern in his eyes. "How many ships have we lost?" "4 large warships, sir," Roland replied, his shoulders slumping. "And the Earth fleet, they're not just defending themselves. They're hunting us down. I've never seen anything like it." A long silence followed as the Admiral weighed the situation. The Galactic Empire was the most powerful military force in the galaxy, feared by all who knew of its might. But now, in the face of Earth's unexpected counterattack, their dominance was being shattered piece by piece. "We underestimated them," Admiral Zorek muttered, the realization hitting him like a blow. "This is no ordinary species. We can't continue to treat them as if they are weak." "What do we do, sir?" Captain Roland asked, his voice tinged with desperation. "We pull back," Zorek ordered. "We've lost too many ships already. We cannot afford any more casualties. The humans will not expect us to retreat. It will be our chance to regroup and find a way to strike back. Roland didn't hesitate. Understood, sir. I'll begin the withdrawal immediately. As the communication ended, Captain Roland turned to his crew. Prepare for a strategic retreat. We need to get out of Earth's firing range and buy ourselves some time. The crew scrambled to execute the orders. In space, the Empire's once formidable fleet began to shift positions, pulling back from Earth's orbit. But the Earth fleet was not about to let them escape so easily. Inside the Earth command ship, Admiral Kara watched the Empire fleet retreat on the main screen. The tension in the room was palpable. Their victory in the first clash had been a significant blow, but they knew this was only the beginning. Do not let them escape, Admiral Kara commanded, her voice steady. Their retreat may just be a trick to lure us into a trap. We will pursue them and strike when they are most vulnerable. Her orders were clear, and the Earth fleet reacted swiftly. The ships, powered by their newfound faster-than-light technology, closed the distance with astonishing speed. Within moments, they were in pursuit of the Empire's fleeing ships. The humans weren't just going to let the Empire retreat. They had made it clear they would fight until the very end. Back in the Empire fleet, Captain Roland watched the humans' pursuit with growing alarm. He had hoped their retreat would be enough to buy them some time, but the Earth fleet was closing in too fast. The humans weren't letting up. Captain, one of the crew members shouted, "The humans are not backing off. They're following us. We're not going to be able to outrun them." Roland's mind raced. The human fleet was faster than they had anticipated. And now, they were out for blood. There was no escaping them. They were no longer dealing with a small, primitive world. Earth had become a force to be reckoned with, and the consequences of underestimating them were starting to show. "Prepare for battle," Captain Roland ordered, his voice cold with determination. "We may be retreating, but we will not go down without a fight." At that moment, a cold realization settled over the Empire's commanders. This was no ordinary conflict. This wasn't going to be a battle that could be won through sheer numbers or firepower. The humans had proven that they could turn the tide of war with speed, precision, and determination. The Empire, once invincible, was now on the defensive, and their enemies were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for Earth's future. And the Earth fleet would stop at nothing to ensure that the Galactic Empire knew one thing: they were not going to be crushed. The Empire's fleet, now retreating in haste, was starting to falter. Ships, once powerful and imposing, now looked small and vulnerable against the overwhelming might of Earth's pursuit. The retreat was no longer a simple fallback. It had become a desperate scramble for survival. The Empire's pride, and the reputation they had built over millennia, were being shattered with every passing minute. Inside the Empire's flagship, the mood was grim. The once confident officers were silent, exchanging only nervous glances as they monitored the incoming Earth fleet. Even the most hardened soldiers couldn't ignore the fear creeping into their thoughts. Captain Roland paced the command center again, hands clenched into fists. He had seen many battles in his time, but this was different. "Admiral, we can't outrun them," he said, the weight of his words pressing on him. "We need to make a stand. If we don't, we'll be wiped out." Admiral Zorak, normally a picture of calm, was no longer his usual self. His eyes betrayed the deep frustration and growing panic within him. "We can't just fight them off," Zorak muttered, almost to himself. "We thought Earth was weak, primitive. We couldn't have been more wrong." Roland nodded, his face grim. "Their ships are faster than ours, and they are relentless. We need to buy some time. Maybe we can use the asteroid field nearby. It might give us some cover." Zorak looked at the screen, where the Earth fleet was closing in on them. The humans weren't just moving fast. They were moving intelligently, with military precision that even the Empire had difficulty countering. They knew exactly how to flank and cut off escape routes, forcing the Empire to split their forces. "We need to act now," Roland said urgently. "If we let them get too close, our fleet will be torn apart." With a grim nod, Admiral Zorak made the call. "Prepare the fleet for defense. Set a course for the asteroid belt. We make our stand there. It's our best shot." The order was relayed, and the fleet's formation quickly changed course, veering toward the asteroid belt that loomed ominously in the distance. The Empire's massive warships began to shift positions, preparing to face the incoming Earth fleet in a last-ditch effort to break the human assault. Meanwhile, aboard Earth's flagship, Admiral Kara stared at the screen with steely determination. The Empire was retreating, but only just. She knew this was their last chance to stop the invaders once and for all. The asteroid field was an unexpected move, but Kira wasn't going to let it deter her. "Captain, signal all ships to maintain pursuit," Admiral Kara commanded. "We cannot let them regroup. Push them into the belt, but don't give them a moment's rest." The human fleet responded without hesitation. Their ships, agile and equipped with the latest technology, moved swiftly, weaving in and out of the asteroid field as they closed in on the Empire's position. Roland watched in disbelief as Earth's ships maneuvered with breathtaking agility. "They're too fast," he muttered under his breath. "How are they able to keep up with us?" As the two fleets neared the asteroid field, Roland knew they had to take advantage of the terrain. "Form defensive lines. We'll use the asteroids as shields. Prepare for the worst." The battle was about to reach its climax, and Roland's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air. This was their final stand, and if they didn't succeed, the Empire would fall. As the two fleets collided in the heart of the asteroid field, explosions erupted all around them. The humans fought with unparalleled coordination, using the asteroids as cover while launching devastating missile strikes against the Empire's ships. The Empire's larger, more cumbersome vessels struggled to keep up, their firepower no match for the human speed and precision. "Captain, we're being overwhelmed," one of Roland's officers shouted. "Our shields are failing." Roland clenched his jaw. There was no turning back now. The Empire's once mighty warships, which had swept across the galaxy without mercy, were being torn apart by Earth's superior tactics and unrelenting firepower. The desperation in the Empire fleet was palpable. "We can't hold on much longer," Roland said, his voice breaking with the weight of the situation. "We need reinforcements. Now." But there was no help coming. The Empire was alone in this battle, and as more of their ships were destroyed, it became increasingly clear the Empire's arrogance and underestimation of Earth had led them to this moment of annihilation. As explosions lit up the asteroid field, a lone figure stood in the Empire's command center, staring at the screens in disbelief. "This can't be happening," the officer muttered, watching as Earth's ships methodically dismantled their fleet. "We were supposed to be conquerors. We were supposed to be invincible." But they were not. Earth had become their nightmare, and they were now paying the price for their hubris. Outside, the asteroid field was a battlefield, filled with the wreckage of both fleets. The once proud Empire fleet was now a shadow of its former self, its ships crippled and scattered. In the chaos of the battle, Admiral Zorak made the final decision. "All ships, fall back. We cannot win this fight. Prepare to retreat to a safe distance." But the retreat was already too late. Earth's fleet had surrounded them, and there would be no escape. The Galactic Empire's once unquestioned dominance had come to an end. The battlefield within the asteroid field had become a chaotic nightmare. The once proud warships of the Galactic Empire now drifted, shattered and smoking, their hulls torn apart by the precision strikes of Earth's fleet. The stars in the distance were obscured by the debris that filled the void between the two sides, creating an eerie silence despite the violent destruction unfolding. On the Empire flagship, the atmosphere was thick with panic. Admiral Zorak's orders had failed to turn the tide of battle. The asteroid field, once thought to be a safe haven for their retreat, had instead become their tomb. Earth's ships were everywhere, maneuvering with such speed and coordination that it seemed as though they could predict every move the Empire made. Inside the command center, officers scrambled to keep the ship intact. But it was clear, the battle was lost. Zorak's face, once confident and composed, now wore the expression of a man who knew his fate was sealed. "We can't keep up, Admiral," said Captain Roland, his voice tight with desperation. "We've lost too many ships. There's no way out. Our fleet is disintegrating." Zorak gritted his teeth, his hands shaking slightly as he gripped the console. This is not how it was supposed to end. In the final stages of the battle, the humans showed no mercy. Every strike from their ships was calculated, hitting vital systems with deadly accuracy. The Empire's defensive shields flickered and failed, and with each explosion, another warship was lost to the void. In the midst of the chaos, a lone Empire cruiser tried to make a break for it, trying to escape the encirclement. But Earth's fleet, like an unstoppable tide, had already predicted the move. A squadron of human ships sped ahead, cutting off any escape routes. The cruiser's engines were hit, causing a massive explosion that lit up the darkened battlefield. One by one, "They're all falling," Captain Roland said, the grim realization setting in. "We are losing this war. Admiral, there's nothing left for us." Zorak stared at the view screen, watching as his fleet disintegrated. He was no stranger to battle, but this was something far worse. This was an annihilation. The once mighty Empire, untouchable, invincible, was crumbling under the relentless might of Earth. The loss was not just of ships, it was the destruction of everything the Empire had stood for. Their reputation, their pride, their very existence, was now at the mercy of a force they had once seen as insignificant. And the worst part, the humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for revenge. "Admiral, we have to acknowledge the truth," Captain Roland said quietly. "The Earth fleet is superior. They've outclassed us at every turn. We can't keep fighting. We've lost." Zorak clenched his fists, struggling with the weight of his failure. "But we can't just surrender," he snapped. "We will go down fighting. We will not give them the satisfaction." The Empire's flagship shook violently as another missile struck its hull. The warning lights blinked, and the bridge crew scrambled to keep the ship from falling apart. There was no denying it any longer. The battle was lost, and the Empire was on the verge of collapse. Meanwhile, Admiral Kira aboard the human flagship was overseeing the final stages of the operation. Her expression remained calm, her eyes cold and determined. There was no joy in this victory, only the bitter satisfaction of bringing justice to the Empire that had once threatened Earth and its allies. "Admiral, their fleet is collapsing," reported her communications officer. "We've completely overwhelmed them. There are no more escape routes." Kara nodded, her voice steady. "Continue pressing forward. We're not done yet. We need to make sure they never threaten us again." Her orders were clear. The Galactic Empire had to be crushed utterly. The survivors needed to understand that Earth would not be a victim any longer. The days of unchecked imperialism were over. It was time for the galaxy to recognize Earth as a new, unstoppable power. Back aboard the Empire flagship, Zorak finally understood the full weight of what was happening. He was watching the fall of an entire empire, a legacy that had stood for millennia. There was no one to blame but themselves. Their arrogance, their underestimation of Earth, had led them here. They had assumed that humanity was weak, primitive, and easy to conquer. They were wrong. "We are defeated," Zorak muttered to himself. "We were too proud." With a final bitter breath, he turned to Captain Roland. "Prepare to evacuate the survivors," he ordered softly. "There's no point in fighting any longer. We've lost." As the Empire's flagship drifted, broken and lifeless, Admiral Kira's fleet closed in for the final strike. There was no escape now. The Galactic Empire, once the galaxy's greatest power, was no more. Earth's secret fleet had shattered their arrogance, proving that even the mightiest empires could fall to the strength of a united and determined humanity. The battlefield had become a graveyard, where once mighty warships of the Galactic Empire had filled the skies. Now only twisted, smoking debris remained. Pieces of shattered ships floated through the cold void, reflecting the distant stars like a broken mirror. The massive, once proud empire had been brought to its knees by the relentless advance of Earth's hidden fleet. On the human flagship, Admiral Kara stood at the command deck, her eyes cold and focused as she surveyed the wreckage on the screens before her. The final push had been completed. The Empire's military strength had been obliterated, and their forces scattered. Victory was complete. But there was no celebration, no cheers or applause. There was only the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the distant whir of communications officers sending final reports. For the first time in years, Earth was truly free, but the cost of this freedom weighed heavily on their shoulders. The victory had been earned through bloodshed, but it was also necessary. The Empire's cruelty had stretched too far. The galaxy could never return to the way it was. "We've done it," said Captain Allen, his voice breaking the silence. He stood at the edge of the command deck, watching Kara intently. "The Empire's gone. They won't threaten Earth again." Admiral Kara turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "We've shown them that humanity is not to be underestimated. But this is only the beginning. We've won the battle, but the war for the future of the galaxy is just starting." She wasn't speaking of the battle against the Empire. That part was over. She was thinking of the larger picture. The galaxy had never seen a force like Earth's secret fleet before. Humanity had proven it could defeat the greatest power in the galaxy. But what would come next? Who would fill the power vacuum left behind by the Empire's fall? A question echoed through her mind. What kind of galaxy would Earth build? Meanwhile, across the battlefield, the remnants of the Empire's shattered fleet had begun to retreat. What little was left of their once mighty warships limped away, engines sputtering, their crews demoralized and broken. They would not regroup. The heart of the Empire had been destroyed. But there were survivors, scattered across various parts of the galaxy. The surviving officers and soldiers of the Empire began to realize that their leadership was gone. The Empire's infrastructure had crumbled, but their lust for power and control did not simply vanish with their defeat. Admiral Zorak, though gravely wounded, had escaped the final blow. He now found himself on the edge of a desolate world, watching as the last remnants of his fleet faded into the abyss of space. The once proud admiral was now a broken man, stripped of everything he had fought for. His eyes, once filled with the fire of conquest, were now dim and empty. How did it all go wrong? He muttered to himself, sitting on the cold surface of a forgotten planet. His thoughts were a mess of regret and disbelief. His empire was in ruins, his soldiers scattered, and his pride destroyed. Yet there was something in Zorak's eyes, a spark of something deeper. In the midst of the destruction, he realized that this was not the end. No, the galaxy would change. It had always been changing, but now, with Earth's victory, it was changing faster than anyone could anticipate. Even in his defeat, he felt it. The winds of a new age. Back on Earth, the politicians and leaders were already beginning to discuss what would happen next. The end of the war was just the beginning of a new chapter. Humanity had proven it could conquer the impossible, but what would Earth do with this newfound power? "Admiral Kira, the world leaders are requesting a statement," said one of her aides, breaking her deep thoughts. Kara turned toward him. "Tell them we've won. But the real work begins now." As the communications officer relayed the message, Kara glanced at the view screen one last time. The stars outside seemed to gleam, almost as if they knew something greater was coming. The Empire was gone, and Earth had emerged victorious. But the galaxy was still a vast and unpredictable place. One thing was certain: the balance of power had shifted, and Earth was now in a position to lead, to chart a new course for the galaxy. The days of being overlooked and underestimated were over. Humanity had made its mark. With the Empire's fall, Earth was now in the position to forge alliances, heal old wounds, and build something new. But as Kira looked toward the future, she knew that the peace they had just won would be fragile. There would always be new threats, new powers to confront, and the galaxy would never remain still. The story of humanity's rise was far from over. As Earth's fleet made its way back home, the enormity of their victory began to settle in. It was the end of an era, but the beginning of a new one. The galaxy was theirs to shape. The future, once uncertain, now glimmered with possibilities. Humanity had proven that they were not just a species to be ignored. They were a force to be reckoned with. And in the silence of space, the stars seemed to hold their breath as they waited to see what Earth would do next.